Good morning, BALLBUSTERS! How's it going out there, guys? Thanks for coming. If you'd like to support this channel, there's PayPal and Patreon links in the info box below. Also, if you'd like to join the BALLBUSTERS panel, we are live broadcasting today from Discord. So that link is also in the info box below. So we got a great show for you today, folks. All brought to you by my Patreons. They are Sam Hine, Felix Hung, Qatar Craig, Sally Bayless, Chow Yun Cat, Tina Baker, James Mays, and Eagle, Plane, and Anchor. Make no doubt about it, folks. Without those patrons, this show wouldn't happen. So thank you very much. Now we got the BALLBUSTERS. We have sort of a thin BALLBUSTERS crowd since they're all gallivanting around Europe, eating octopi and squid, some on vacation. Others have moved into places where they don't have internet, so we're all good. But I'd like to introduce to you the new host of BALLBUSTERS, Paula, Bible literalist. It's all yours, Paula.
Oh, goody. What am I going to do with it? Yeah, as my grandpa used to say, yesterday I couldn't spell it, and today I is one. So, no idea what I'm doing, but it's okay because we wing things around here. So, I guess mainly my thing will be to, say, how is everybody, just like, Quantum Eraser just did. But people on the panel, I will unmute to see if they want to talk and try to keep one eye on the YouTube chat and the other on the Discord chat. So we'll see how this goes. So yeah, how is everybody? Who else is here? We got 10th Man, Nathan, Betty. I think that's all the BALLBUSTERS here, but there's others so far on the chat or in Discord. I mean, I guess we'll shout out later.
Doing good, Paula.
Awesome.
Good to be here.
Yes. Yeah. Good evening, everybody.
Cool. So, do we do any small talk and things, or as far as introducing? This is what the third part of the series so far, Master Science series.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
But we need more foreplay.
Okay. Let's see. What can we talk about? The one thing I have ready is not for now, so we'll save that for later. But one other thing I was thinking of is sometimes we need to be more precise with our terms as far as things like inertial reference flame. Reference flame.
Paula, you're on fire.
Oh, I was just going to say
I'm on fire. So, but yeah, that's I think what the show is about. What a lot of people don't understand is precision in terminology, because it being sloppy is how a lot of disinformation gets spread around, because people say this is science or that's science or science says, and it can't say that. And then when we get what they would consider nitpicky about it, I'm like, well, that's what science is. It's nitpicky. It's very precise. And so that's why we have to do that. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I like to say something on that. Growing up, when people would argue and disagree on other topics, not the topic that we are on, they'd say, well, that's just semantics. Well, you get used to hearing that. And then when you really go into it, what is semantics? The meaning of words. Well, of course it's semantics. I'm trying to communicate with you, so we got to be precise.
Right. It's only a valid objection if it's off topic, if it's really a red herring, because when people are making or what they call majoring in the minors, where they take a minor part of your argument, say you misspoke something or you used a word in a way that they can take another meaning for and do other fallacies with, they'll do that as a diversion. But when meanings are important, like in science, then semantics is, like you said, it's exactly the point. So that's why we do that.
Well, I think they're trying to say that's a fallacious statement, but they don't say that. They say it's semantics, so they don't even identify it.
Well, they say it's semantics because they try to get out of the meaning of words. If they can change the meaning of words, then they can throw a monkey wrench into every single argument and just leave it at that. And no one wins, no one loses. It's a ball of confusion. That's their modus operandi. Thanks.
Can we have a little sort of summary of what you already spoke about in previous 2 presentations? Is that possible?
Negative.
There you go, Betty.
I would like to give Paula a quick
Short
compliment,
and
though.
concise, like every time.
Are we about to start? Because I was going to say, you don't get much past Paula in terms of words and their meanings. So in the chat the other day, Paula pulled me up on phenomenon rather than phenomena, which is a common mistake that I make a lot of the time. Paula pulled me up on it, so I thought, right, I've got to have her. So I said, if I've got a bowl of Cheerios and a bowl of cornflakes, I've got a bowl of cereals. And without missing a beat, Paula's like, that's a collective singular.
Collective singular.
That's a real thing. I mean, there are compound singulars in some languages, not necessarily English, but sometimes there are. So I can usually play the card and nobody knows the better. So
yeah, like us. What the heck is a collective singular?
A compound or collective singular is something like group. Okay, group is a singular noun, but it means a collective of individuals. There's more than one individual in a group by definition, but group itself is a singular noun.
Oh, I see. I got you. Using an example.
Yeah. For example,
that makes me feel far stupid. That's brilliant.
I can give you an example. 10th and 11th man are the same.
What?
not quite.
Well,
But
I'm sometimes 11th man, but I'm early 10th man, acting as 11th man.
That's a
I got two.
deoxymoron.
That doesn't apply. Grammatically, it doesn't apply.
Doggone it.
Sorry. Oh, but like I said, group is an example of that. It means something plural. And we get in, the reason I know that is because we get into that in Bible discussions because of names like Elohim, which is a plural noun, but it takes singular verbs with it. So, it's like a difference between in America and Britain, where you might say, YouTube are going to do such and such, whereas to us it grates on our ears because we say, well, YouTube is, because YouTube is a singular noun, even though it means a group of people or bots or whatever the heck they are at YouTube. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but English was never my favorite subject. My sister, she was an English major. She would correct us all the day. Me and my 2 brothers, right? Correct
Did I irritate you?
Oh my God. It would be, we ended up just walking away because it wasn't worth it.
The important thing is to know when to hold your tongue, when it isn't important to correct the grammar. But when I'm in chat and I'm seeing the word phenomenon, which you're using properly here on the screen, they don't see yet, and then somebody says phenomena with it, it's just like, gah. But I do hold my tongue a lot, trust me. So anyway, there's a shout out already for. Did you want to do that, Benny, or do you want me to get?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a super chat from Dave Rakia Gafford, and he's saying, "Is giving funds to truth legal anymore? Rakia live. I'm on mood."
And pass. Dave. Thanks, man.
So is that enough warm up or?
Nah, I need a little bit more. There was an incident. That's okay. I'll take care of it. There was an incident last night on Discord 24/7 2.0, right? Where I got a baller to actually admit that when witnessing plane flight from east to west with somebody in the inertial reference frame, the plane actually goes in reverse. Just want to let you know.
The first time either someone's expressed that complete stupidity, it's because they get so caught up in the undoing of non-Coriolis effect by saying reference frames are traveling as one, the air is solid and velcroed to the earth moving as one, that they end up literally having to argue that planes are traveling backwards when they leave because they want to argue that they are experiencing Coriolis effect, as they should. Obviously they're not, but by saying that they're experiencing Coriolis effect, effectively they've got them going backwards upon takeoff. You know, the Earth's rotating underneath at a greater rate than the plane's traveling, ergo backwards from space if you were to view it from the inertial reference frame. No, just an idiot. Planes don't do that. Earth doesn't spin.
Yeah, the conservation of momentum. Got him. I just let him write down and just let you know, this is recorded like in 3 places, so I'm not going to release it today. I'll let it go probably next week or something. We'll figure something out, but it's priceless.
Don't hold back. I got to hear it.
I've started to enjoy the joys that are 24/7 Discord. I tried to get in, I failed today because M. Scott Veach was arguing the same old crap arguments that he always does. And it's like, okay, that's why we don't see them anymore, because we don't entertain this nonsense. But yeah, still hearing the same old rubbish arguments, begging the question, using 7/6R terrestrial refraction to fool newbies into begging the question. Very disappointing.
It seems like all their arguments start with begging the question.
Without exception. I used to say 99% of all globehead arguments start by assuming the R value. Well, no, that's wrong. All of them do. There aren't any exceptions.
Yes, every single argument that they have is affirming the consequent formological fallacy. Every single one. If you really sit down and take them apart, you'll find that they all are affirming the consequent.
All right.
In how they trust.
Yes. And I was told, I mean, it should be obvious that you can have conservation of momentum or you can have Coriolis effect, but you can't have both. But that's what they want. And they think we're stupid if we think they're mutually exclusive. But, you know, what can you do? So are we ready to go?
Their latest trick with Coriolis arguments is to insist that everything always takes place from a non-inertial spinning reference frame. And the reason they're doing this is because that way their argument always starts with the begging the question of an Earth that spins. So if they always phrase their argument from everything's all in the non-inertial spinning reference frame, they might as well be saying everything's always on a spinning ball Earth automatically. That's what they're essentially saying.
Yeah, we're ready to go. I just want to remind everyone that the link to the Discord server is in the info box. If you'd like to join, you can. You will be on mute until the host decides that she's going to take you off mute and ask questions. If you have any questions or you have claims themselves, preferably regarding the presentation, but that doesn't seem to work out all the time, we'll entertain some. We'll see. It depends on the host. Okay? So, are we ready to go?
As far as I know.
Yes.
All right, Master of Science Part 3. Might as well start off with the Master of Science, right? The scientific method. Listen, I wrote this down. This is more or less verbatim, besides my parentheses in here, that I got in 5th grade general science. Right? Now, I highlighted 3 because they are the indispensable steps of the method. Observe a phenomena, Paula. Step 3, construct formal hypothesis. Step 4, test an experiment. Now, everyone says there's many scientific methods. There isn't. A lot of people, you could put flowers around here. You could put everything around this. You could put some before, some after. It doesn't matter. It takes some away. Doesn't matter. You have to have these 3 steps or it's not science. Period. End of story. Now, The other ones I didn't highlight, it's not that they're not important, right? For example, step 2, literature review. There's 2 reasons that this is here. Now, number 1, it's common sense, right? You're going to go out, you're going to look through the literature and discover what you don't know about the subject, right? It's a pretty wise move to go ahead and do and gather as much information as you can. Now, the second reason is just as important. It is a job safety step. Let me tell you why. You see, if you go into this and you skip step 2 and your boss finds out that this experiment that you've done, taking all the time and resources of the lab of whatever profession that you're in, science profession, actual science profession, and you conduct this experiment using all those resources, and it's already been done multiple times, and it's the same experiment, let me tell you something. Shortly, you're going to be picking up cans alongside of the road. Okay, so this is a very important step, along with all the other ones. But like I said, you concentrate on these 3 steps, and you won't have any problem, right? You get the dependent variable from step 1. You add the independent variable, dependent variable. That's step 2. And to the independent dependent variable in step 3 that I have here, you have the test or experiment where you add the control or constant variables. It's just that simple. You can't have science without experiment. You can't have an experiment without a hypothesis. And you can't have an hypothesis without observing a natural phenomena. See how that works? Any questions? It should be rhetorical at this point.
No questions.
All right, one of our favorites, right? Let's get this right. Hey, don't do that to me. We got peer review, our favorite, right? We always get this thrown in our faces, right? Peer review is the antithesis of actual science. Number 1, show the peer review step in the scientific method. I'd like to see that. Number 2, the scientific method was created to rid the landscape of bias. That is, loudest voices, ruling class, majority, votes, consensus, opinions, the subjective, by instituting a method solely focused on the objective, empirical, observable, testable, repeatable, falsifiable. The goal of the scientific method. The spinning space monkeys mindlessly appeal to it because it's the only way to get their fairy tales into the mix, whereby bastardizing it. Number 3, Catholic priests have also been banking on their internal peer review for centuries. Baltard science, i.e. religion, has much in common with theirs. Number 4, Richard Smith, MD, former editor of the British Medical Journal, which has a pretty high impact factor, by the way, has claimed that peer review is ineffective, largely a lottery, anti-innovatory, slow, expensive, wasteful of scientific time, inefficient, easily abused, prone to bias, unable to detect fraud, and irrelevant. That sounds like science to me. From Courtney A., comments regarding on the nature of science. The author describes the 3-legged stool of scientific error correction as experimental care, reproducible experiment, and peer review. Like Occam's razor, peer review is a temporal expedient for judging scientific work at any given time. Peer review serves the temporal interest of the publishers, funding agencies, and employers. The ultimate arbiter of scientific validity is repeatable experiment alone. Let me say that again. The ultimate arbiter of scientific validity is repeatable experiment alone. Hope that's clear. The only aspect that should be expertly reviewed should be whether or not the researchers followed the scientific method. That's a brilliant idea, isn't it? It should be positioned right above the abstract. It should list them just like this, just like I had above. If they're not listed or are incoherent, then hasta la vista, baby. That's how we clean this mess up. Of course, then NCBI database will have like 3 or 4 studies in it. Astronomy, astrophysics, and cosmology, and theoretical physics will take their rightful place at the bottom of the sci-fi section. Paleontology, archaeology, anthropology, geology will take their rightful place beside photography and bag of hammers observations. And evolution will take its rightful place in religious studies, myths, and fairy tales, just below Humpty Dumpty. Will people lose their jobs? Yep. But hey, we still need people to pick up trash. And this, I love this. A study done by Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania professor J. Scott Armstrong in 2017. The title, fewer than 1% of papers in scientific journals follow the scientific method. Yeah, you don't need this study to tell you that. Just do a random Google Scholar NCBI database. Just go in there randomly and start typing in hypothesis in your search terms, or independent variable or dependent variable, or experiment. Right? This is a joke. It's a fiasco. There is no science in their science. Questions, comments?
Definitely. The mess that you described, that mess is heliocentrism. And the reason for the mess was just eloquently detailed by you. Pseudoscience is the reason most of the Western world think they live on a spinning ball. This is it. This is the reason. People masquerading as scientists and science, a reification fallacy, when in fact they have no adherence to the scientific method. They have no cause and effect reasoning. They've not followed any of these steps, but they'll still say the word science. And that's why we're in this mess.
And I think the definition of, or the not definition, but the discussion on peer review is just basically what we would call gatekeeping. That's really what it does. It's a gatekeeper for ideology, not making sure you follow the scientific method, because like we just read off there, the statistics, that's not what peer review is about. It should be, but it isn't. And when they openly state that it's prone to all these problems, such as primarily bias and protecting careers often. I remember a documentary years ago called Do Scientists Cheat? This is like 10, 15 years ago. And of course the answer was yes, put out by them, by the mainstream. And the reasons they cheat have to do with funding and reputation and book publishing and that sort of thing, and not so much did this paper that was submitted, did this experiment or whatever it was follow the scientific method? Not at all. So yeah, it's gatekeeping. So when people demand that we don't have, that we should have peer review, what they're demanding is really on the same level as affirming the consequent. They want us to be ideologically correct from the start and to be constrained by their predetermined limits. That's what they want when they say, where's your peer review?
And a perfect example for that, Paula, is in the year 2000, when it used to be called global warming. A hacker released the email, over 2,000 emails of these so-called scientists studying the global warming, and found out that they were politicizing it to fit their politics. There was no science behind it. So it's happening in every discipline.
Right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I often thought that peer review was that others also did these tests and did the same thing, and then came to the conclusion together that something was right or wrong. But it just seems to be some guys coming together, watching the paper and reviewing the paper, just overviewing it, and that's it.
Maybe like a good old boy network.
Yeah, and then the loudest voices win, basically, and that can never be true, right? It's
Well, do you want the results of peer review, or do you want the results of the absolute scientific method?
yeah, and the scientific method. When I learned about that, for me it was just an eye opener that so many things were based on basically fantasy instead of real science. And yeah, this is so good that we can talk about this again, so that people hopefully catch on to this. The more it's repeated, the more people will learn about this, and that people aren't so easily being fooled again by this practice of that peer review. Hopefully, but
Precisely.
everything also with the climate change and stuff.
The
Yeah.
impression that they give you is that peer review is as good as scientific evidence. It's phrased and framed in that way so that when you hear, well, this has been peer reviewed, it might even have the word scientific strapped on there. This has gone through scientific peer review. And you're like, oh, right, well, that must mean it's empirical then. Because the impression is that it's checking whether or not it's right. And if it's not right, it won't get through peer review. Well, no, right or wrong really don't come into it. Definitely doesn't take into account that whether or not they've actually adhered to the scientific method. They're not double checking that, far from it. But that's the impression. So I see so many YouTubers when they're discussing these sorts of things, science in quotes, whether or not you've got enough peer-reviewed data to actually make a decision. And only people with the correct peer-reviewed data should be the ones listened to. Like, what is peer review? It's not the scientific method. It's all that matters.
Paula, do you have the cosmology definition you were talking about before?
Yes, I do. From Merriam-Webster Dictionary, defines cosmology as 1A, a branch of metaphysics that deals with the nature of the universe, metaphysics. And then 1B, a theory or doctrine describing the natural order of the universe. And 2, a branch of astronomy that deals with the origin, structure, and space-time relationships of the universe. Just before I break that down a little bit like I need to, but cosmogony, some people throw that term around, is only about the origin, whereas cosmology includes that. But the thing is that it's metaphysical, it's a doctrine, and they presume the consequent, they presume space-time relationships. It's Einsteinian, built right into the definition. So a metaphysical doctrine based upon the presumption that there's such a thing as space-time. That's the Webster Dictionary definition of cosmology.
It's a
Comments?
travesty.
It is. Yep. I mean, it's laughable. I just looked that up like a couple of hours ago, not with an agenda, just saying, let's define our terms, as I was saying earlier. Define our terms, and that's right, as they say, from the horse's mouth. That's how they define.
So we're back to begging the question with space-time without proving it first, and then everything they say is based on that. And if that was false, then everything they said is false.
Right, exactly.
Based on space-time. It's assuming that conceptual medium is our reality, and then the entire discipline's based on that conceptual medium.
Yep. Again, stacking the deck, to use another expression on all this, is stacking the decks and make sure you will go to the foregone conclusion that you're presuming they're right, their whole model or system is right before anybody even starts.
Yeah, assuming that the reification fallacy is correct is what you're saying, right?
Exactly, yep.
Yeah. Posters. All right, we ready to continue?
I think so.
All right, typical baller parrots. We all know these. Science never proves things, QE. Science is self-correcting, and science is always changing. Really? Why do they say, aka mindlessly parrot, these belly-laughing fallacious train wrecks? Well, they need flexibility when their previous Jusso stories, or the stories that they're being told by their pseudoscience priests that were being peddled as science, get pummeled. They can just pivot and say, see, science correcting itself. Right? Train wreck. Science never proves things. Number one, reification fallacy. Science isn't an entity. It doesn't take action or have volition. It's a method, the scientific method. Number two, scientific proof. Experiment from McClellan, Kristen, The Nature of Science and the Scientific Method. Experiment. Once the hypothesis has been established, it is time to test it. The process of experimentation is what sets science apart from other disciplines, and it leads to discoveries every day. An experiment is designed to prove or disprove the hypothesis. If your prediction is correct, you will not be able to reject the hypothesis. From Dr. Craig Venter, the grand poobah of geneticists, the geneticist of geneticists. You know, there are some things we can do in science in terms of proving certain things in life we discover. You guys are circling the drain right here with these two. I'm going to put you out of your misery. Proof equals evidence. From Merriam-Webster, evidence, an outward sign, indication. B, something that furnishes proof. From Oxford Dictionaries, proof, first word, evidence. Or argument establishing a fact or truth of a statement. To prove, Collins Dictionary. Number one, to test by experiment. A standard. Set. Proof synonyms, confirmation, evidence, validation. From the University of Rochester Physics Labs, a scientific theory represents a hypothesis or group of related hypotheses which has been confirmed through repeated experimental tests. From their Alma Mater Wiki, an experiment is a procedure carried out to support, refute, or validate a hypothesis. That means prove. Ergo, experiments prove or disprove the hypothesis. Here comes the cowbell. Scientists using the scientific method have proven, number one, water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. That's 1 atmosphere of pressure, 101.325 kilopascals or 14.7 psi. Number two, combustion is the result of oxidation reactions. Number three, information is only caused by intelligent agency. Number four, the lack of insulin with type 1 diabetes patients results in ketoacidosis or DKA. Number five, the lack of vitamin C intake in humans results in scurvy. Number six, knowledge or the existence of the which path information collapses the wave function. 7, the rapid motion collisions of molecules with the walls of the container causes gas pressure. Number 8, magnetism is caused by the motion of electric charge. 9, the Coriolis force is caused by two differing frames of reference. One rotating coordinate system, non-inertial, and one non-rotating coordinate system, inertial. And 10, gluconeogenesis results in the production of glucose from specific non-carbohydrate precursors. So, there's 10. These are absolutely true, proven, inviolable, never to be falsified. I got about 500,000 more. Interested? The third one, science is self-correcting. Really? Can you define self for us, please? The poster child and undisputed champion of the world, evolution, whatever that is, punctuated equilibrium, brought to you by Stephen Jay Gould and Niles Eldridge. So, from Dr. Niles Eldridge, curator of the Invertebrate Paleontology and American Museum of Natural History, says, Darwin's prediction of rampant, albeit gradual, change affecting all lineages through time is refuted. What does that mean? Does that mean it's validated? The record is there, and the record speaks for tremendous anatomical conservatism. Change in the manner Darwin expected is just not found in the fossil record. So, what are you going to do, right? Ergo, punctuated equilibrium makes its shining start. This is the hypothesis that evolutionary development is marked by isolated episodes of rapid speciation between long periods of little or no change. In other words, it's no change, change. That's what it's called. You know what it is? This is an ad hoc hypothesis covering its butt from up here because it got pummeled. The non-scientific theory got pummeled. As simple as that. From skeptic, an ad hoc hypothesis is one created to explain away facts that seem to refute one's belief or theory. An ad hoc hypothesis are common in paranormal research and in the work of pseudoscientists. So, punctuated equilibrium was brought in, disheveled monkey, to cover the refutation. From their alma mater wiki, an ad hoc hypothesis, a hypothesis added to a theory in order to save it from being falsified. Listen, folks, there never ever was a scientific theory of evolution. Never will be, but they think there is, and what they try to do was save it. This is just merely one, punctuated equilibrium. There's about 25 or 30 of them. Science, this is one of my favorites too. Science is always changing. Really? So these scientific proofs are always changing. Let's go through them again. Water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. That's 1 atmosphere of pressure, or 101.325 kilopascals, or 14.7 psi. Combustion is the result of oxidation reactions. Information is only caused by intelligent agency. The lack of insulin with type 1 diabetes patients results in diabetic ketoacidosis. Lack of vitamin C intake in humans results in scurvy. The knowledge of or existence of the which path information collapses the wave function. The rapid motion and collisions of molecules with the walls of the container causes gas pressure. Magnetism is caused by the motion of electric charge. The Coriolis force is caused by two differing frames of reference, one rotating coordinate system, non-inertial, and one non-rotating coordinate system, inertial. Gluconeogenesis results in the production of glucose from specific non-carbohydrate precursors. So these are always changing? Pseudoscience just so stories always change via ad hoc hypotheses because they were never scientifically validated to begin with. Duh. Questions, comments?
This is where they took it too far. So they hijack science and claim that they're just so stories were scientific when they weren't. And then they went on to tell us science doesn't prove things. And that's where they took it too far. They've hijacked it. They should have just kept their mouth shut.
Yeah, that always changing. I mean, why do they get so bent if somebody disagrees with the current theory of something when they're so proud it's going to change tomorrow with better evidence, but you don't believe what they're saying today, so they ostracize you, keep you out of the public schools, tell you you're stupid. Because why? I mean, if they thought they are holding two contrary ideas in their head at the same time, are proud of the fact that it's always changing and progressing. They think progressing is changing. And at the same time, you're stupid if you don't agree with today's current theory on something, which is just, screaming from the hills that they are not doing science. Like you said, it's like even that first one on the list of actual science, 1 atmosphere of pressure, for when water boils. They're assuming, they are demonstrating that there's pressure, because if you change the pressure, then the boiling temperature changes. And that was just kind of a shout out to the person in the last week or so who was saying that there's no pressure. Was that Spurs? I forget, but saying that there's no pressure at ground level. I mean, okay, then what happens to this scientific experiment where if you change your elevation, you change the boiling temperature if the variable is pressure? There has to be a pressure at ground level, right?
There is. That's correct.
I mean, these are the actual science things. They're telling them in 50 different ways that there's pressure, and that those are things that you can observe and repeat and test and falsify, whereas evolution, like with Gould's hopeful, they call it the hopeful monster theory, among other things, is kind of a little branch off of the punctuated equilibrium, which just is an admission that gradualism is false. Darwin was completely wrong, but we have to account for change over time somehow. So we have millions of years of nothing, and then suddenly everything happens, and we're just supposed to believe that. I heard somebody's mic open.
Yeah, I was going to say, if science was interested in the truth, they would just report the findings, but it's obviously politicized, and as stated before, the grants, the paychecks, it's changed. I mean, maybe when it first began, it was, pure and uncorrupted. But right now you could see that they're throwing it under the bus and they're going with whatever they want rather than what the actual scientific method shows.
You said if science was interested in truth?
No, I meant the scientists using the scientific method.
Oh, okay. You said scientists. You said scientists. Sorry about that.
Well, maybe I didn't, but that's what I meant. So if you're going to use a method to find something is true, or, well, let me put it this way, valid, or you could invalidate it by using the method, why would you become political about it? Why would you just report the findings?
Right. They would not be zealous about it. And the fact that they are is telling us that, no, it isn't about science, it's about something entirely different. And,
yeah, because there's no politics, there's no bias in the scientific method.
Right. No, there should be no passion in it. It should just be following the method. But their reaction to disagreement tells us everything we need to know about what they're really doing, which is continually moving the goalposts, actually. And it's, evolution is a prime example of something unfalsifiable, which they have. I don't have the quotes handy, but, in past decades, at least, if not generations, where they would say, well, no, there's nothing we could ever discover that will disprove evolution. It's true no matter what. Well, that's right there telling you that it's unfalsifiable and unscientific. So.
Precisely. It's their religion.
Yeah. Anybody else?
We ready to move on?
I think so.
All right. The colloquial use of theory. Okay, from your dictionary, a theory, a mere conjecture or guess, right? That's not a scientific theory, folks. From Chemistry About, a scientific theory summarizes a hypothesis or group of hypotheses that have been supported with what? Repeated testing. From Quarks to Quasars, a scientific theory consists of one or more hypotheses that have been supported with what? Repeated testing. From the University of Rochester Physics Labs, a scientific theory represents a hypothesis or a group of related hypotheses which has been confirmed through repeated experimental tests. Big difference between a scientific theory and a theory, a colloquial theory you just make up. Right. Another important point. The scientific method does not start out with a theory. It is the end point. So, you have the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable and you're back asswards. A theory is always the result, the end point of valid scientific hypotheses which come from the scientific method. I hope everyone understands this. I think that topic came up earlier this week, and I wanted to stress that. It doesn't go the other way. You don't come up with a theory and then figure out experiments or something that you can do to confirm your theory. It's preposterous, ludicrousness, absurdity. And you can't have an actual scientific theory, like I said, without it already being validated or confirmed by experiment, that is, hypothesis tested. And you can't have math or equations for a flippin' scientific theory. Math and equations only describe. Scientific theories or anything coming out of the scientific method deals with explanations of the how and the why. The cause and effect, not the what's and the is's. This is a good one right here. The logic of the scientific method, right? I've heard some, how would we say, people talk about this and say that the scientific method only deals with inductive reasoning, right? No. It has nothing to do with induction. The scientific method is conducted using two and only two forms of logic. One, abductive, and number two, deductive. Got a mic open? As evidenced by, aka cowbell, from explorable.com, abductive reasoning. A number of facts from a multitude of sources such as literature reviews, we already talked about, and general observations are gathered together. After an assessment of this information, the most likely hypothesis to explain the observations is adopted as the starting point of research. Abduction is seen very much as the starting point of the research process, giving a rational explanation, allowing deductive reasoning to dictate the exact experimental design. Wasn't that beautiful? So, abductive reasoning is employed to establish, number one, observations, number two, literature reviews, number three, hypothesis. Where did we see those three before? Right? Observation of phenomena, literature review, construct a formal hypothesis. Like a glove. Deductive reasoning from thoughtco.com. Deductive reasoning is more narrow and is generally used to test or confirm hypotheses. Like a glove, number 4, we have the first 4 steps with abductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. We don't need any more because we have already covered the indispensable steps. Observations of phenomena, hypothesis, and experiment. There they are. Again. Abduction. No conclusions are drawn. Observing phenomena, literature reviews, educated guesses. That's hypothesis construction. Deduction, general to specific, leads to certainty. That is experiment. All A or B and all C are A, therefore all C must be B. Got it? Whereas opposed to induction, that is specific to general, leads to probability or likelihood. Most A are B, and this C is A, therefore this C is likely B. This has nothing to do with science, folks. Nothing. Zero. This is really good. From Lumen Learning. Listen to this carefully. The difference between abductive reasoning and inductive reasoning is a subtle one. Both use evidence to form guesses that are likely but not guaranteed to be true. However, abductive reasoning looks for what? Cause and effect relationships, while induction seeks to determine general rules. You see it yet? So, abduction's used for cause and effect? Where do we find that? From Lowell C., becoming a successful scientist. From Cambridge University, a scientific hypothesis based on what? Cause and effect reasoning. A scientific hypothesis does not merely state X and Y may be related, but explains why they are related. From Drexel University, the scientific method is hypothesis-driven. One makes an educated guess to explain a what? Cause and effect relationship. Abductive reasoning, folks. From Anne-Marie Helmstein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences. A hypothesis is an educated guess based on observation. It's a prediction of what? Cause and effect. See it? From nature.com, California Institute of Technology physicist Sean Carroll arguing in The Edge that hypotheses aren't simply useful tools in some potentially outmoded vision of science. They're the whole point. So, abductive reasoning, causation, hypothesis construction. Deductive reasoning equals experimentation. This is science. As opposed to inductive, correlation, probability, likelihood. Correlation doesn't equal causation. Ergo, if you masquerade this as science and not as what it is, then it is pseudoscience by definition. Got it? Let's stop right there.
Helps if I unmute.
There's a great little explanation about pseudoscience and just details it. I think he uses wiki, just pulls up the wiki entry and basically says pseudoscience is a non-application of the scientific method, i.e. correlation-based or anything beyond cause and effect reasoning established by hypothesis-based systematic experimentation, or, to put it in its simpler term, science. If it's not that, it's pseudoscience, if it's being declared as being science.
Yep. It seems pretty self-explanatory to us, but I mean, there's a reason you have to go over this. Because this is what they throw in front of us. They say if this is anti-science, that, flat earthers in general, anti-science. Well, when they define it the way they want to, which is not the way their own people define it, but the way they wish it was defined, then of course we're anti-science because they have changed the meaning of the word. That's all. Anybody else have a comment on that section?
No. I haven't.
I think this is the first time I've brought this up. I've only seen a couple people in chats. I've heard it here and there. No one's flower. Science is all about induction. Not too much anyplace else. Oh, I think the son of an astronaut, M. Scott Veach, has brought this up before in the past, that science and the scientific method is about induction. I mean, it's quite preposterous. All they do is say it. They don't support it. They don't even, I don't think they even know what induction is, or abduction, or deduction, right? All they're doing is just parroting these terms. I don't know how you do. How do you do that? What's your goal? Do you think no one's gonna find you out? I mean, with all the tape recordings these days, I mean, I'm taping. Be careful out there now, guys, because I got Audacity, right? Both literally and metaphorically. You better be real careful on what you say, because I'm gonna make you a star. Guaranteed. Anything else before we move on?
We got another ballbuster here, Chocolate saying, but his internet is very bad, so I don't know if he's able to talk.
Can we give him a radio check real quick? Lost 1, this is lost 3, or you lost 2, over? That's what he's lost. That's not a problem. Not an issue.
I see it's greeny now.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah.
Hello, guys.
Hey, Chocolate.
Hey, what's up?
What's happening?
Not much, man.
What's up?
That's what I'm trying to find out, brother.
Yeah, well, so what do you think about abduction and deduction and induction? What's your take?
My take is, if you're not doing science, if you're not really following the scientific method, and if that comes with induction, then I don't really know what that's about.
Great answer, man. Increase the enthusiasm now.
Maybe he's tired. I don't know.
He was just finished moving.
That'll do it.
All right, we ready to move on? We've got 2 small sections left.
Alrighty. Let's go.
All right, here's one game the pseudoscience priests are playing. Check this out. Watch this real carefully. It's not even subtle. You're going to catch it real quick. Example, observe a phenomenon. So, sailors appear crippled, they have bleeding gums, tooth loss, and have poor wound healing after long sea journeys. Plausible causes, aka independent variables. Number 1, prolonged exposure to seawater. Number 2, inhalation of aerosol seagull droppings. 3, prolonged exposure to swabbing the deck cleaning solution. Prolonged rolling and pitching of the ship. Poor air quality, especially below deck, caused by smoke from candles and tobacco, mold, mildew, vapors from tar and waste in the bilges, and hydrogen and carbonic acid gases from the ventilation systems, right? Those are 5 independent variables. What about what we don't know, right? So what do we do? Do we go with A? Do we poll a bevy of current scientists and roll with what most think it is, then call it science? Or B, do we test every possible cause, read independent variable, and validate the effect, that is the dependent variable or the prediction, science, right? Do we do A or B? Today's science, which is religion, paleontology, anthropology, archaeology, geology, evolutionary biology, yeah, I'm still laughing, and what's that? Theoretical physics, non-experimental, astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology roll with the poll. They roll with this one up here, folks. They just roll with the poll. Because they are unable to confirm or validate anything by experiment. Then they say, this is great. I love this one. You talk about non sequiturs from the Black Lagoon. Then they say, what's the problem? Since transistors work, therefore spinning balls, multiverses, dark matter, evolution, big bangs, billions of years, ad nauseum are scientific facts. What the heck? Wake up! My word. Scientific predictions, we'll finish up with this one. Scientific predictions are not Gene Dixon, Edgar Casey, Jimmy the Greek, Mystic Meg, Nostradamus, or Carnival Tent predictions. From Anne-Marie Helmstein, words have precise meanings in science. From California State University, scientific hypotheses, a special kind of prediction, a special kind of one that forecast how the independent variable will affect the dependent variable. Question, can you have a scientific hypothesis without an independent and dependent variable? That's rhetorical. From Penn State University, the scientist applies his or her present knowledge to predict the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. The prediction is a statement of the expected results of the experiment based on what? The hypothesis that we just went over above 5 times. The prediction is often an if and then statement. It doesn't have to be. So, in summary, to have a scientific prediction, you must have an independent variable and dependent variable. In other words, a viable scientific hypothesis. Any questions, comments, and concerns?
Not from me.
This bugs the hell out of me. Yeah, definitely. So it's a magical word, this hypothesis. And it means, in this context, scientific prediction. But yet people use it all the time when they're trying to phrase their example and make it sound scientific. So it's almost the pinnacle of pseudoscience, or the use of science to purvey the idea of science when you haven't got any, is using this one word, hypothesis. So you hear it all the bloody time. It drives me absolutely insane.
And
Egregious.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah, the independent variable, the cause, is where people can't get off that point because they think, for example, you're talking the other day about setting a timer and whether or not that was manipulating time, so that would be required for it to be something, an independent variable. But all you're doing when you set a timer is waiting for a sequence of things to go through its process. That is not time itself, is just our perception of that sequence. And if you're just waiting for the sequence and not interfering, you're not altering time. But people can't figure that out, and that's why they can't get off square one, because they don't even know what it means to manipulate a variable, and that time is immaterial and you cannot manipulate it, even if you have a clock.
Yeah, so you stop time, right?
Yeah.
Stop time.
So when they talk, all those years of conspiracy theories on time travel and the supposedly credentialed people who talked about it are all just fantasies, because you cannot manipulate time. You can't travel an idea. You can't bend or warp or cheat something that's immaterial like that. That's just a concept. And so what do we do then with the willingness of so many people to accept what a priest in white lab coat says, even if it seems to be a rogue? People love those. Some, I can't think of the names right now, that used to be big in ufology and all that, where they would say that such and such person, is a whistleblower, and he said that they had time travel. It's like, do we know now? Can we admit now that these people were just making up stories? Because you can't travel a concept. It just blows the lid off everything just by looking at the scientific method.
Did you say you can't travel a concept?
That's what I said.
That was a good one. Can I use that?
Sure.
That was good.
That's it.
Anyone else?
I don't think there's too much to say here. I mean, we've beat this over and over and over again. It's really quite simple if you look at the scientific method, right? It's very easy. Don't get confused with the independent variable and the dependent variable. The independent variable, it's got to match 3 criterion. Number 1, it has to exist. Number 2, you must be able to vary and manipulate it. And number 3, it is the presumed cause. It has to comply with all 3. Not 1, not 2, all 3. Not that you just can vary and manipulate something that doesn't make it a viable independent variable. The most important one of those, it's your cause. So come on, people. 3.5 years, 1 single term. I'm sure you can get it. You guys are adults. Don't play dumb, because we're just going to expose you. It's going to be painful like it is every day. Have you share your pain, right? It's getting old. Grow up.
And it's like you said many times, I think, that when it comes to evolution especially, what variable are they manipulating to prove life from non-life? Or, for example, the fruit fly experiment, where they wound up with just mutated fruit flies. They didn't turn into house flies, horse flies, superflies, dragonflies. Yeah. So they didn't turn into anything but fruit flies. So they tried to manipulate a variable, but it did nothing to prove evolution. So what
Evolution?
do they got? They got nothing.
Hold on a second.
Yeah,
Evolution.
what's that? What's that?
Yeah, what's that?
Depends on who you ask and what day it is.
Let me round that out before it drags out. So there's no scientific evidence for evolution.
Amen.
Thank you. That was very concise. That is the end of the presentation, Paula. So if you want to go to, if that's, we can round it out with, the BALLBUSTERS panel, final thoughts, and then it's up to you on how you want to treat the people in Discord.
All right. Maybe I'll just go from top to bottom on the list because it helps me keep track of things. And I'll unmute JJ, it looks like, and see if he's got anything to say, or he or she. You're off mute. Need to unmute yourself now. Okay.
Well, thanks for that.
Back on mute. Chocolate can already unmute himself, I'm pretty sure.
Hello.
Hey, got any comments?
I just wanted to add on to the back of when John was talking about hypothesis, that I think we should stress that a hypothesis has to come after the observation of a natural phenomenon. I think some people are under the impression that you can just dream up some hypothesis from your dream and just make one up without actually seeing what it is that you want to establish cause and effect of. So I think we got to stress that you got to have some type of observation, and it doesn't start with ask a question. So I think that's something that some people really need to reevaluate.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chocolate. Yeah, that's from Science Buddies. Ask a question.
Science buddies.
I'm not making fun of Science Buddies. They're helping kids understand what science is. They're just technically wrong. Okay? No big deal. But as an adult, don't parrot Science Buddies, okay? We're going to expose you.
That was the main, wasn't the main point Chocolate was making, and I completely agree with you, Chocolate. So what you're saying is, we often hear people who will step in at step 2 or 3 of the scientific method, either with an experiment or with a hypothesis. And they've essentially bypassed step 1 based on, as you put it, what they've conjured in their heads, their dreams. They've come up with a hypothesis based on potentially my religious belief in the sky vacuum and what it does, or, in other words, they're not starting by seeing an effect and going, I wonder what causes that. That's not what they're doing. They're just making up hypotheses like they're to be plucked out of a bag rather than used to give your formalization of your presumed cause and effect relationship to explain your point, the phenomena that you observed at step 1.
Right, like a good example, I think, would be the life cycle of stars. That they got this whole made-up sequence of things that they say, well, if we see this supernova or whatever it is, this stage of star development, well, they can't manipulate any variables, and all they can do is look at stuff in the sky, and they can't say what's going to happen next because, it just takes too long, or whatever, or we're looking at something a million years in the past. So it's just a story. I mean, what else can it be?
Well, that's absolutely true, but in that instance, it's almost like the other way around, because they've actually, in some instances, got an observed phenomena. You could argue that some of the things that they look at happening in the sky are a phenomena. You could argue that they've got, something that they could start with, but from there, they've got absolutely nothing. But I think that, I'm not disagreeing with you because you're absolutely correct, but Chocolate's point is more the other way around, which is to say that they'll start at step 2, or they'll start at experiment, like with the sliced spar cane, right? Well, I'm going to go and do an experiment. And you go, okay, well, before experiment comes hypothesis, your prediction. And before the hypothesis comes your observed phenomena. So with Sly, we took it back 1 step, and he didn't even have the hypothesis from his experiment. It's like, well, what is an experiment? Well, it's a hypothesis test. Well, what's a hypothesis? Well, it's your prediction formulated based on what you saw in step 1. What was the phenomena? Now, what you're saying is, well, they look at something happening in the sky, and you go, well, that particular discipline or those disciplines, they do actually have step 1. You could definitely argue that. But they're definitely not going to formulate any hypothesis and be varying anything to cause that effect. Chances are the effect's already happened, never to happen again.
Right. I just wanted to kind of give the other angle, but it's the same point that they meet at, because it's all, and this is what I think they object, why they get confused, if I can be polite, when we bring out these things like, wait a minute, we can't talk about your point till we talk about the things that must precede it first, and they think we're diverting. Well, yeah, we're diverting from the shortcut you tried to take. That's all.
Yeah, or like Chocolate was saying, they go it from the beginning end, right? And they skip the first step of the scientific method and hypothesis, or they go to the end. They start with the theory, like I was talking about before. There's a lot of people that do that, right? Yeah, that's easy bustable. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's even worse, isn't it? I forgot that. You're damn right. So let's just get that clarified. So after all of the steps just detailed, so you observe your phenomena, if you're going to do the step 2 that was detailed here, you do your research, but then you do step 3, you move on to your formulation of your hypothesis, you establish your null, then you go forward and science the shit out of it. You actually do some experimentation and you validate your presumed cause. Excellent. You've got some scientific evidence. Now, it might be the case that there's other people in the same field of research that are doing different experiments on something that requires further explanation, and they formulate something called a scientific theory. And that's going to be based on all of those steps having been adhered to and an outcome that was proven by way of systematic experimentation based on hypothesis, based on an observed phenomena. That's when you get your scientific theory. But what do we get from the pretender clowns? We get colloquial theories, and they're punted as being scientific. Have they gone through any of these methods? No. Have they got a collective of multiple established scientific evidences? Oh, I'm going to get it in the neck for evidences. What's the plural? Evidences.
Just evidences. Yeah, that's fine.
That's a singular collective.
A singular collective.
Right. The point is, they go straight to theory. Even more annoying, right? They've got the whole lot. They've got the kit and caboodle, and they're on to scientific theory. Yeah, right. No, Mystic Meg theory. Make up something and say it in a way that sounds like it's science. Maybe throw the word hypothesis in there somewhere, and suddenly people go, "Wow, what's the next question off their lips? Is it peer reviewed?"
And don't forget the double-blind experiment.
The double blind, that was Sly Smarcane. After he came on that show, right? And we have that tape, by the way, that's coming up on this channel. After that show where he was totally embarrassed, he rage quit, he popped up on Anthony's. I think Anthony ran a video or a presentation the next day, and everyone was getting on Sly for him rage quitting, right? He said, well, my experiment is double blind, right? My wife has a background in biochemistry also, and I said, hey, honey, I said, you ever did a double-blind physics experiment? Or a single-blind? See, double-blind and single-blind speak to your treatment group and the investigator. Now, you got one part of that, the investigator, but you don't have any treatment groups in physics, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but Flat Earth Math did the same thing, didn't he?
Flat Earth Math was doing double-blind chemistry experiments.
An understanding in this field, right? I bet you didn't even get an answer. You just got a stern look.
Wait a second, dude. Can you imagine chemistry departments all over the world, right, would have a blast radius of the investigator double blinding? Yeah, throw that. I don't know what that is. Throw that in there.
Oh, they only do one test, I think.
Hate to break the mood, but I think I got a bunch of more people to unmute and see what they got to say. They've been sitting there. If that's okay, I'm going to
Negative.
unmute. Well, I just did it. Too
Look
bad.
at it. Come on.
Draxifer with a little pumpkin icon or something. Got anything to remark on? Anything at all? I'll take that as a no. So we'll put them back on the server mute, right?
Now,
And then
hey, Paula,
Uh-huh.
you don't have to server mute them. Just go ahead and put them on mute. Make sure they don't interrupt us.
oh, that's the other mute. There's too many mute buttons.
Yeah, or the next time when we have that, we can just move them, but we could talk about that after the show.
Sure. Okay, now we'll do God Rockin'. Big chance.
That's John. It's one of our patrons. Hey, John.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you doing? Can you hear me?
All right. You kind of cut off there for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice to hear your voice,
Yeah.
Godrockin.
I don't know. Let me. I this is the first time I've tried to do this, and I'm going to unplug. There. All right. I just unplugged. I had two mics plugged in. Maybe that was the problem.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to say that, I've been watching Nathan's show and QE's show ever since day one. And I really enjoy it, and just want to say thanks to you guys, all you guys.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
And hopefully I can get this. I got a real long delay, it seems like, when I speak, and so I'm kind of.
Yeah, I don't think you need to look at the watch page. Just listen to Discord. It might help.
Do you have your speakers up? Are you listening to yourself, or?
Okay.
Just speak through Discord. That's makes it better.
It's just my headphones on.
Do you have the watch page up?
Anyway, I'm not sure what that is.
Do you have the watch page on YouTube up at the same time as you're talking?
No.
Okay. Well, we'll try to
now.
Go ahead and try it one more time, and if you can't, we'll go ahead and bypass you for now and then come back at you.
Okay, thanks. I just want to say thanks to all you guys mainly, and I really enjoy your show, and maybe I can get this figured out and maybe do a little more input in the future.
Well,
So
it seems like it's working now.
Yeah, you sound good.
It just seems like there's like 5 seconds between.
Yeah, it's working, but I've got a big. Okay, I got a long delay.
Yeah, well,
Don't worry
yeah.
about your delay. Just say your statement, and it'll just take 5 seconds longer for us to get it.
Anyway, I'm a flat earther 100%. Okay, all right. Yeah, creationist 100%.
All right,
Anyway,
sir.
so I'm just going to say goodbye for now, and thanks again for all you guys. I love your guys' show. I love your shows.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much.
Lovely to hear your voice, Godrockin.
Thanks, Nathan.
Okay. Yeah, it's about a 5 to 7 second delay there. The next one on the list is chemo. Here we go. You're unmuted.
Well, I've just been on air with Fight the Flat Earth. He's got a 20-hour stream going on for whatever reason. I think 20,000 subs, whatever. But they still insist. I mean, it's just bizarre. They still insist time is an independent variable. And he was about to go back and forth with making a cup of tea about the time it takes to make tea. I didn't even let him finish. I said, well, this is not an observed phenomena. And then he started going on to, wow, what if, like a tea leaf was to fall into a hot spring? He started going on some, he really wanted time to be an independent variable. They still insist that two causes can be. He started going on about, if I turn the light switch off, am I the cause of the light going off? He's like, oh, what about the connections in between? And,
well, the lights have gone off on him a long time ago.
I know. I'm saying it's just a huge problem. It's a huge problem. I mean, no matter how much you kind of tell these guys, I mean, he's on right now. I'm going on again in a couple of hours, and I'll go through it once again with this. And you'll hear them. Just time is an independent variable. We can manipulate time, and it's just like, what is wrong with?
They can manipulate time. Is he Doc Brown? 1.21 gigawatts.
Right. It's bizarre. It really is bizarre. It's insane.
I'm going to try and unpick it though, Spurs.
Sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
Well, there's two things. I'll start with the second, which is to say they don't understand the word independent. So if they think there can be more than one of them, they don't understand the simple English that is the word independent. So no, independent doesn't mean two, it means independent. That's the first thing. The second thing is, what makes an independent variable an independent variable? Well, there's three criterion that you've got to satisfy in order to be an independent variable. First and foremost, it must be real. Is a concept. So I won't detail them all with time, but number one, it's got to be real. Number two, it must be physically capable of being varied and manipulated by you, the researcher. That's number two. So number one, it's got to be real. Number two, it must be capable of being varied and manipulated by you, the researcher. Number three, it is your presumed cause of the effect. It's not a control variable. It's the cause in the experiment. So
Nathan,
one,
let me stop you. Let me stop you, please. Number two, this is where they have the problem. Manipulation. They are wondering, how do they manipulate the cause? This is what I don't think we're expanding on this manipulation, because my understanding is, I could be wrong, but I understand. Let's say if magnetism was a cause of something, was a presumed cause, you would remove the magnetism or the electric or whatever you presume the cause is. You remove it. That's how I understand it, and then you would either add it, remove it to see if it is. I think that what they mean is vary it, like a scale, like an up and down kind of thing. So
I'll give you an example.
Yes. Yeah.
So you come across a hot spring you used with tea falling in it. That aside, so you've got a hot spring, and you go, "Oh, that water is," and you don't know the word for it, but we're just going to pretend you do at the time. It's boiling. I wonder what causes that effect. So then you take some water, because in your hypothesis, you have if acid, then boiling water. And then your null is if acid, not boiling water. Then you go forth to the experiment stage, and you add acid to the water, and you verify your null. Hard acid. So then you go, okay, that was incorrect. My independent variable of acid was wrong. I verified my null. I did not confirm my alternative. I don't have a valid cause of this boiling water. Now let's try heat.
Mm-hmm.
So hypothesis.
Hold on. Can I just verify? So let's say you went through all these variables, and we was like, okay, so what did you say? Let's say the salt, whatever. And we assume now, or we predict the salt is the cause. Do we stay with the salt and manipulate the salt, or does that mean take another variable? Like, I think that's what they're trying to find out. So let's say we
I know what you're asking. So rather than going to the actual cause, we'll just go to salt. So my hypothesis now, I see the boiling water and I go, I think it's because of the salt content. So my hypothesis is now, if salt, then boiling water. If
No,
salt,
I didn't mean that. I mean, I was thinking of Anthony. I was thinking of Anthony's test, not the boiling.
I'm trying to help.
Mhm.
So they're saying they want time to be an independent variable. Yeah, time doesn't cause anything. So in that regard, we're done and dusted. But I just want you to understand what an actual validatable hypothesis would be.
Yeah.
And it has an independent variable, singular, on its own, alone, being varied and manipulated by you, the researcher, to validate that it is actually the cause. And in this instance, when we start varying the heat, we validate the alternative hypothesis, if heat, then boiling water, and invalidating the null hypothesis, giving this method its empiricism. Independent, on its own, singular, alone, variables being manipulated by the researcher to cause or not cause the effect observed at step one. There you go.
Precisely.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. That's, like I said, it's just one cause of the, they're insisting on a car, you press the accelerator, a light switch, that's
like not natural science.
Yeah,
they're off the reservation. They're off the reservation to begin with. They're not talking about natural science. So this
I agree. That's what I said to them. It's not natural. Where do you see a natural light switch? I said, where do you see a natural cup of tea? Yeah, I get it. But I'm just saying, because like I said, I'm going to go on probably there later. They're still insistent on gravity also. They're now trying to redefine gravity. I can't remember how they describe it now. Not the manifestation, but they're just trying to include it. They're desperate. They're on their last legs, if they're on any legs at all, and it's just bizarre. Yeah. Anyway, that's me.
They haven't had any legs since 2015. So yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
It sounds like you're all over the Spurs, to be honest.
No, I get it. I fully understand it. It's just bizarre how they don't get it. Like, it's not frustrating, but it is. But it's not. No. It's like, well, what's wrong with you? You can see that independent, like you just said, is a single.
No, it's not bizarre, Spurs. I'm going to explain it to you. You ready? Fanatical religious zealotry. There's your answer. Thanks.
Put the words out of my mouth. Put the words out of my mouth. Fundamentalist.
It's insane. It's like, I don't know. We've never seen anything like this before, I don't think. It's like, what is wrong with you?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. 13th century alchemy. We've seen this before.
Oh, okay. I need to check my history, yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
That's new on me. I know it's probably not for this show, but definitely want to hear more about that.
I was being facetious, man.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. Paul is back again. Okay, good.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, should I go on to the next person then?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Paula, could you go to Flatty, because he was here in the beginning?
Oh, okay. And then after that, I remember it's Mobius. So we'll unmute Flatty. Okay, Flatty.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, Nate, directly to you, my friend. The last time we spoke, you were rude and disrespectful. But before I address that even further, I want to really address the group at large. It seems pretty clear that what you guys are doing is trying to shoehorn your religious beliefs over science, using scientific terms, concepts, and the methods in such a way as to try to discredit it.
Example, please.
I'm not done.
Example, please.
And
example, please.
Your loud, interruptive nature.
Example, please, for your claim. Then you can move on. Shut him up. Shut him up, Paula. Okay.
There you go. That's my proof.
Yeah.
Yeah. He started out with saying it's a religious thing for. I'm like, he was the first person to bring up religion, as far as an alternative, a competing religion, talking about scientism. He was the first person to bring it up. I mean, all we've been doing is citing their own priests. So,
but
it began with a false charge. I don't know.
But that's just it. You don't use use the description of scientific methods, or scientific conclusions.
Yeah, I muted him, by the way, anyway.
Yeah, we're going to need some cowbell. If you make a claim, I have no problem if you're making a claim and it's against us. That's fine. However, when you make that claim, the very next thing out of your mouth, not the next claim, the very next thing out of your mouth should be as evidenced by. Specific. We want specificity. All right? That's not too much to ask. It's called supporting your claims. Thanks.
He also said scientific methods, and I want to know where he got that you can have more than one method.
To be fair, though, if you can, Paula, if you can just pop him off mute, I'll give him at least a chance to support his claim. He said that we've misinterpreted or misrepresented science to back a religious assertion. I'd like him to actually at least get an opportunity to try and evidence that we've done that.
Okay, was that was Mobius, was it, or?
Last chap that spoke that said we
It's
were
Flatty.
unifying our religion with science, or words to that effect.
Yeah, was that Mobius?
No, it was Flatty.
Okay, sorry
Yeah, I
about
think
that.
you muted the wrong person. Yeah, that was me, Flatty.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, Flatty is off mute.
Okay, so you guys asked for evidence, and the kind of evidence that you're going to need is going to take a long time to provide because it's your own words.
Then don't claim it. Don't claim it if you can't support it. Don't claim it if you can't support. Shut him up.
Why are you so loud all the time?
Shut him up.
You're too loud. Okay.
Shut him up, Paula. Yeah, listen, I don't want to hear my dog ate my homework, the cat pissed on the floor, I tugged on Superman's cape. If you make a claim, you support it. We don't have village idiots here. That's what village idiots do. They sit on the corner and make baseless assertions every day without support. We don't want to hear any excuses. You make a claim, support it. You got one more chance. He's got one more chance, Paula. If he doesn't,
first of all, listen, I'm here.
If he doesn't support his claim,
but the thing about it is that you don't understand is that your process. You're asking for me to make a claim about how you behave.
No, I'm not asking that.
Yeah,
I'm asking for support of your claim.
Obnoxious.
I'm not asking for that.
On that, I'm out, and I have
asking for support of your claim. I don't want to hear diarrhea. Go ahead, get rid of him.
Done.
Wow.
That's known as projection.
Yeah.
So he's screaming at the top of his lungs that we're very loud and telling us that we're reifying religion through science. Well, no, clearly that guy's a globehead. Obviously, that's precisely what we've demonstrated in this very presentation. How it's been done, supporting it with evidence. And his claim is, no, that's what you're doing. That's literally what he's saying. No, that's what you're doing. All right, can you give us an example?
You don't understand.
Yeah, you don't understand. You're basically doing precisely what John has just spent. Let's try again. What Quantum Eraser has just spent this entire presentation explaining how hijacking has happened, how science has been taken over by pretender clown pseudoscientists to reify their religion of a sphere into existence through words like hypothesis, which they don't have. He's essentially said, no, that's what you're doing. And John, or Quantum Eraser, has said, give us an example of where we've done that. And he's gone, and you're very loud and obnoxious. No support.
Yeah. Well, if he's listened to the show at all, he would have known that you have said on many occasions that truth coming from even the person you don't like is still truth coming from a person you don't like. So loud and obnoxious has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's just I mean, everybody can point to everybody else. But the problem is that we're trying to have a presentation and a discussion of the presentation, not the presenter, and not past sins or whatever it is. It's out of context at the very least, to be ultra polite. But yeah. Go ahead, Nathan. You're
fallacy. It's appeal to format. They're saying the delivery is. It's like, well, who cares? There's been many occasions on the show where I've said, look, it doesn't matter if the person who comes on is a saint. They are deemed to be perfect by everybody. If what they're saying's wrong, then what they're saying's wrong. Equally, convicted murderer comes on and makes a valid claim. Does it matter that it's a convicted criminal? No, if what he says is correct and supported with evidence and citations and demonstrations, etc., then that is going to be the more valid evidence than some crazy outlandish assertion by somebody who's deemed credible. Makes no difference.
Yeah. All right. Let's do Mobius. Muted. Mobius.
While we're waiting for
Hey, guys.
Mobius,
Oh, there he is.
Look, hey, yeah. No, I just yeah, don't get me confused with that last guy, boy.
Sorry. I'm new at this.
No, I really enjoyed the show. I don't really usually have time to talk and get into in-depth conversations in voice, but I do enjoy the show, and I like to input on text when I can. So, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right. I think Paul Hall is already unmuted. Yeah. He hasn't said anything, has he? Or not much lately, anyway?
I'm not in a place to talk. I'm just listening.
Okay, no problem. Let's see. We got... Trying to read that word. Pepe something or other. Let's see what they have to say. Mic noise.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, you had a lot of mic noise, but now I can hear you.
It's okay now? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a question for you guys. For QE and Nathan.
Okay.
I went... What's the purpose of science?
Can I try that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or was I not? To elucidate cause and effect.
Exactly.
And why you do that?
Because you want to explore a phenomena you observe.
Okay. So, and why would you limit science as you define it, like such a narrow definition if we want to discover more of the world?
Yeah, I didn't make the method. It is very, very narrow. To be empirical, that's the sacrifice you have to make.
Okay.
Well, can I ask him what other method would he subscribe to? If he doesn't want such a narrow method and he wants another method, well, I mean, again, it's not partisan. If you think there is another method, what method would you find something out about the natural and physical world, Pep?
No, I'm not saying another method. I'm saying the right scientific method.
Sorry?
Enough.
What did he say?
I would do it from on the scientific method, but the right one, not the one you think it is.
he said that he would do it the scientific method, but the right one.
That's what I'm asking him. Which one does he subscribe to?
Yeah,
Good
which is the
anyone.
right one?
The one that. Okay, so
Don't be afraid. I'm just asking you if you're saying that this method
Yeah.
is too narrow. You want to widen it, like another way to find out something true. Well, what is that method?
what I'm saying is that your definition of scientific method is too narrow, and it really isn't. Like scientific method, it really isn't that narrow.
I can
I
barely
want to
hear.
make it that narrow. So I was curious to know why make it that narrow.
We didn't make it that narrow. That's the scientific method. We didn't make it do anything. I didn't make up the scientific method. Nathan didn't make up the scientific method. None of the BALLBUSTERS staff has made the scientific method. The scientific method is the scientific method. Who can you call? BALLBUSTERS.
No, but I think what he's asking. I think what he's asking is why is this method so successful? And I think because it works. I think you can't use another method to find out something to be true. And if there is, well, then you have to kind of put it forward. That's why Nathan is saying it's so narrow. It has to be that way because otherwise you're assuming things. And if If you're going to assume things to be true, well, that's philosophy, isn't it? That's not science, right? You agree or disagree, Pep?
Agree.
Ah, there we go then.
Thanks,
That's why
Let's
it's so
shout out
narrow.
to the super chat, because there's a super chat by Cleary, and he says, QE will crush your globe head, and you will bruise his heel.
Excellent.
That one is too funny.
Yeah, way to go, Cleary. All right, man. I got you. Thanks, man.
Cleary makes videos, so right click on him if you're in the chat and subscribe to Cleary. Anyway, yeah, I think the guy's just saying it's unfortunate that it's so narrow. Well, it depends which way you look at it. Yeah, I could kind of agree with you. Yeah, it's difficult to formulate valid scientific hypothesis. So yeah, I can't disagree with that. But as John says, it's not our method, and it is an empirical method. It has proven extremely useful. And am I going to make apologies for it being very narrow? Nope.
I will say something regarding that if you can hear me.
Yep.
Truth by its very nature is exclusive, and if you're really seeking after truth, you have to have a narrow way to find it. So the scientific method is about truth. So it's going to find out what the cause is. It's got to be very narrow and very restrictive.
So actually, do you think that the scientific method is about truth?
Can you repeat that? Your connection is very bad.
He said, do you think the scientific method causes truth?
No, it's about truth.
It doesn't cause it. It just
No. I was saying that. Do you think that scientific method is about truth?
About truth.
Yeah.
It's about fact, if we want to really nitpick between fact and truth. But I think basically what we're saying is that the scientific method ensures as much as humanly possible objectivity. So that's really, I guess if that's a better term, I don't know, but
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Well, if you
Because
remember
truth-
what Nathan said at the beginning, it's about cause and effect, and the method will show you the cause for the effect.
And wouldn't you said that it's to know better the world, right? So why wouldn't we want to know why that causes the effect?
It elucidates cause and effect if you validate
but-
your scientific prediction. That's its purpose.
Okay. But you say that scientific method for us to understand the world. So why wouldn't we want to know why that causes that effect? Why we are only why do we only search what cause makes what effect? Why not see the interaction? Like why not go deeper?
I think I pretty much got what you're saying, but yes.
So you agree that we should go deeper more than cause and effect and search why that causes the effect?
I can't understand what you're saying. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, go ahead and stop it, Paula. Hey, sir, try to fix your mic before you come. You can always come back on the next BALLBUSTERS, but you got serious mic problems, and it's causing problems with us, and I'm sure the audience. So we'll get you the next time. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was so hard to figure out what he was saying. I think we can safely move on. Let's see, we got Rams Corp. You're unmuted. Go ahead, Rams Corp. All right. Moving on to Rebel. Hello, Rebel. Okay. Redman?
Hey, how you doing? I didn't catch the show in the beginning, but I definitely gonna watch it. Hey, y'all keep it going. John, I got you some more memes.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, but
Cool.
hey, Rebel's talking now.
His name's lit up, but I don't hear anything.
But that's weird, Paula. It might be just you're not hearing from him. We can hear him. He essentially said that he didn't listen to the show. He will go and listen to it, but for now he's happy to just be here, basically.
Well, I did hear that part, but right now his name is lit up, and I don't hear him. I don't know. Sometimes the names don't fade when they're done talking.
He said, if I'm pronouncing it right, Robles is talking now.
Oh.
So Redman was passing the baton to say, go to that guy.
Okay. So nobody's talking now, right? Just to confirm.
I think it's just Travis we haven't heard from.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. I also got in late here along with Redman, if you can hear me.
Yep.
I will say, though, I read at the part that I was able to tune in at because I had a meeting. It was about the scientific method. And yeah, I was actually not taught the correct way as well. I was taught formulate a hypothesis and then move on to experimentation. And so I didn't learn about an observed phenomenon until I was like 31 when my friend corrected me on it. So yeah, shout out to Eatonville School District.
and you get 10 extra points for saying phenomenon correctly.
What do I win?
We'll ask Sirix.
Yeah, so
I know what he wins, a Tickle Me Soundly doll.
Oh, great.
That's too. I got another super chat to shout out. Way BMX. What happens if you don't presuppose a material reality? I don't know if it's a question mark, but it's a super chat.
Is he, I don't know, alluding to simulation theory? But that really wouldn't affect any of the discussion anyway, because it's our reality. Its true nature is simulation or not is beside the point. It's how things behave in this realm. And whether it's material, I mean, we already know the difference between material and immaterial. Time is immaterial. You can't touch it. You can't travel it. But it's not a matter of presupposing. I mean, we define those terms, material and immaterial. I'm not quite sure what he's asking.
I think he's pointing to the ontological primitives, or if you don't presuppose materialism, then you have idealism, right? That's on the other side of the fence. Is that what he's going for? I think it is, but I could be incorrect.
He said then in the chat, it is what it is. If it wasn't, then why would I say it is? Which isn't helping me at all.
We'll give that one to Nathan. Go ahead.
I think he's on a kind of Descartes theme, isn't he? Kind of, I think, therefore I am. So based on that, he's saying if you don't automatically assume that you've got a physical reality where you're left, well, my answer to that would be, well, if you're thinking about it, you've already kind of answered that question. Was that convoluted enough an answer for that, what I perceive to be a malformed question? Hopefully.
That's perfect.
I got another super chat from Crystal Surreal. Why does Arwin have a wrench and not me?
Give her a wrench. She wins a wrench.
Well, I can answer that. Now, I can't speak to you, my friend, but I know one thing. Arwin is ace. There is no doubt about that.
Are you saying Crystal's not ace?
I think she is.
Yeah, she's too.
She gave you money. I mean, come on.
I don't know you. I'm not going to vouch for you or say or discredit or anything along those lines. But I will say, and I get to say it again, Arwin is ace.
Number one, no one pays for wrenches. I shall not be pawed at.
I think you should give her one anyway. That's just my opinion.
Everybody's got a prize.
I think we've scientifically validated that she should get a wrench because it's been peer reviewed now.
The majority of people says yes.
Okay.
Well, give her a wrench and show Arwen Zace the queen of sciences.
I can vouch for Crystal. She is awesome. She is ace. She definitely deserves a wrench.
She does.
Okay, then another super chat from WayBMX. No such thing as an observer, only participators participating. No such thing as mood now.
How about pass?
I'm glad I got it out of my mouth. Jeez.
You did well.
Yeah.
Clarity. The next super chat, I think. Leary's maybe brought some clarity if you want to read that one out, Betty.
From Cleary, WayBMX, pick up a hot coal and then tell me if you are in a physical reality.
Exactly.
Guys, you've got them back out in the comment section by way of super chat. Superb.
Superb. How do we do this, huh?
Too funny. You're doing a great job, man. It's really wild. Go ahead. Is there anyone left in Discord?
Unless they came in later, I think I've done all the names. I don't think I missed anybody.
Another quick check and then give the BALLBUSTERS final thoughts.
All right. I don't think anybody's still server muted except that one guy, Flatty. And the other guy that had the really bad connection. I think everybody else can speak if they want to right now.
Yeah, I'll just pipe in real quick and say it was a shame that that gentleman earlier started off all confident and then he couldn't even support anything that he was claiming. You know, he sounded like he was about to try to thrash somebody, and he couldn't even support it. Come on. It's not very much to ask to support your claims. And you guys are absolutely available to be, I don't want to say attacked, but you guys are on the defensive and you guys are ready for it. They just have to state their claim, and if they can't even get that far, they're going to get nowhere. So thanks.
Exactly.
Projection. That's what he's doing, projecting.
And there's a time and a place for dealing with personal beefs that people have. I mean, this just wasn't it.
Yes, but based on what he said, I can understand where he's coming from. Basically, turning the paradigm on its head. And I can see where people are. I can see where he's coming from. I don't agree, obviously, because I'm on the other side of the coin, but I don't know. You guys can see where he's coming from, right?
Well, this isn't a case of agree or disagree, right? This has nothing to do with it. This has to do with either a 1 or a 0, black or white, right? So agree and disagree is subjectivity. We're into objectivity and the scientific method. It either is or it is. So I don't know what to do. We're not here discussing our favorite ice creams or our favorite running backs, right? That's agree and disagree, subjectivity. We're into objectivity. Thanks.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Another super chat from Dave Rakier Gafford, and he says, if I don't like QE, does this mean I'm a baller? Mood. And he says, pass, a Rakier life, God is good.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it, man. Now pass.
I'll go around and summarize for the BALLBUSTERS if that's good. Or is that too bold, Paula?
No, go right ahead. Although Unicorn Laser popped on, but I unmuted him. But he has something he wanted to say before we round out.
Anything to add, Unicorn?
Okay. I don't hear anything. All right, go ahead, I guess.
I'll start with a question for QE. Is this the last Master of Science presentation, or is there one more?
Good point. There is one more Master of Science Part 4.
Okay, cool. So Be Here or Be Sphere, Quantum Eraser, 2 weeks from now. for part 4 of the Master Science presentation. Excellent presentation, Quantum Eraser. This was probably my favourite of the 3 so far. And it's highlighting their ineptitude and failings in terms of where they've gone too far, where they claim that science doesn't prove things because they're in fact pseudoscience and they've not adhered to the scientific method. They have no, in many instances, not all, observed phenomena. They formulate malformed or nonsensical hypotheses that aren't independent variable and dependent variable cause and effect relationships. They claim they've got nonsensical theories that they don't actually have an adherence to the scientific method with either. So that's what we've had presented here today. So kudos, because it's been a nicer way or a more expansive way of describing how I believe we've been hoodwinked. And it's by hijacking actual science that gives you empiricism, proving hypotheses. And they've taken that, hijacked it, attributed it to just so stories about lights in the bloody sky. And that's why we're in the mess we're in now, because they don't have science, but they've said that they do. So yeah, excellent presentation. Thank you very much for having me.
And Unicorn says he has no mic, just FYI. So
we have another super chat from Silver Umbrella, and he or she says, "Thank you, one and all." So
you're very welcome, and thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else? I guess I should say the last thing because I'm the host or something like that.
I'll finish out after you're done. Go ahead, Paula. How was your first day?
Well, I guess that's not for me to say, but I think it went all right. There wasn't too much dead air. I think that's the main purpose of the host, to make sure there's not too much dead air. But it went in an orderly fashion. I think unmuting people one at a time is a good idea because people don't talk over as much. And if they do, we just reset with the mute key and try again. So I think that worked out pretty well.
You're not handing in your resignation?
Not yet, but I guess I should say I won't be here for the next live stream because I have other obligations on the 16th.
And all the others after that.
I'll host the next live BALLBUSTERS show, but I would like to say a big thank you to you, Paula, because for me, this has been a really lovely show.
It's nice to be in the back seat. Yes, you're very welcome. I understand that people don't realize what a burden it is sometimes, even if you enjoy what you're doing, to do that day after day and be responsible for the success of a show or anything. Not like I am solely or anything, but it's the glue that holds the rest of it together is basically what the host does, and it's work. And you do a lot of that already, so no problem.
Yeah, it's not a normal thing to do, but I'll tell you what, I have to say, it's a rush.
Yeah.
Very good job.
Leaving the difficult part to Paula. Huh?
Yeah.
Awesome job, Paula.
Duh.
Thank you.
Yeah, so kudos to Paula. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a team effort, though, right, Betty?
Yes.
You're running the Discord server. You know, you're very much a major part. This cog wouldn't be turning if it wasn't for you. Let's all pat each other on the back.
There we go.
It's absolutely
Hashtag same
sickening.
team.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I knew that was coming.
Come on, man. I had to do it one time.
Go ahead, Vanilla. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Hashtag same team, man.
Hashtag get bent.
All right, I guess my work is done for the show. Do you want to end it since you're the one with the controlling the stream?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and end it. Hey, thanks a lot,
right.
Paula. Like I said, this is really, it's not a normal thing to do, and I thought you did an outstanding job. And I would like to christen this, BALLBUSTERS, the Flying Wasp. All right? That's what I'm christening this as, because it's under new management. Hey, guys, thanks for coming. We had a great time here. A lot of good information went out. I want to thank Paula. Like I said, great job. Betty Searings and her server, Flat Earth Debate, Science versus Pseudoscience. Go ahead and join up on her server. Thanks to all my subscribers and Patreons. Outstanding. Like I said, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here. There's no, and I'm not just paying that lip service. That's actually fact. So it's kudos to you, not to us. So again, thanks guys for coming. We'll see what's happening on Tuesday. Bible Literalist will be back live on my channel, going over her Christian faith lesson number 2. Okay, so that's QE Live. That's on Tuesday, and that's 1 p.m. Central Time. All right, clocks have been changing, so you'll have to figure it out with the UK and Netherlands and Zimbabwe. But go, it's 1 p.m. U.S. Central. So, thanks for coming, and remember, we'll be back.
Record.
I'm going to complain. My name is not on the intro outro thing, or the
That's true.
The thing at the end, like a movie trailer thing.
That's because Nathan didn't do it. That's Nathan's fault.
It's gonna be changed.
It's wrong. Gonna be changed.
And we got Flatty in the chatty going. He's sitting there going, "This is all projection. We can't go out of our comfort zones." So clearly, they were not. That Flatty was not here to discuss the topic. They were here to vent.
He was already in the chat before, busy with me in the DMs. He wanted to talk to Nathan and say some things because he's against flat Earth. That was basically it.
Yeah, yeah. So Paula
Are you still recording?
So Paula is complaining about her name not being in the outro. Why is that, Nathan? What's up with that?
Oh, that's not my problem.
Good answer.
Yeah.
QE. I mean, come on. What's your problem?
So Nathan, Quantum Eraser, are you still recording?
I don't know.
Because I have another super chat to shout out, but you're already rounded out.
No, I didn't. I kept the recording button going.
Okay, so there was another super chat by Silver Umbrella, and he says, "Great show, John. Top job." Get another one.
I didn't hear it. Somebody was typing on their keyboard.
Sorry, I'm mute.
You can see it on the recording.
Go ahead, say it again.
Silver Umbrella says, "Good show, John. Top job." You wanted to hit it again, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't hear you the first time. For crying out loud!
Hey, we're on
John,
mute.
is your live still going?
No, the live show stopped. We're still recording though. I don't want.
Sorry.
I don't want to tape anyone surreptitiously.
I was explaining while you were doing your outro.
You're still live.
Chocolate.